Happy Friday and welcome back to Drinking by My Shelf. My name is Emma and today I am doing my March Let Me Entertain You video. These are all the things that have been entertaining me in March and I think might entertain you. So starting of course with books, because books are the reason that we're all here. I have two books I want to tell you about that I have really enjoyed in March, and one of them is very unexpected. I'm surprised that I'm talking to you about it. So let's start with that one. Basically, an upcoming book break video that we're going to be filming is about horror books. And I don't read horror books. I really do not do that. I'm such a wimp. I don't like horror movies. I like being scared to a certain extent, but it has to be like a very controlled fear. So I will look up the plot in advance. I will look up all of the jump scares. I don't want any gore. I don't want anything to give me a shock, because when I get a shock, I don't scream, I cry. I don't want anything that's going to give me nightmares. I don't want anything supernatural where I will lie awake at night, seeing shapes in the dark and being really freaked out. I hate all of that. And yet somehow this month I've ended up agreeing to read like 13 horror books. So that has been scary, but surprisingly, I'm going to include one of those books in my top 2 most entertaining books of March. And that book is Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I know, I never imagined that that book would make it into this list, because I'd never read a Stephen King before. I never had any interest in reading a Stephen King because all of the aforementioned reasons. I don't like supernatural shit. And the story of Pet Sematary is so disturbing. I'm not going to tell you all of it because obviously spoilers, but the basic premise being that there is a pet cemetery where anything that gets buried into this cemetery will come back to life, but as like a really creepy zombie version of itself. And you can kind of guess, let your imagination go to all the places that that premise might take you. This book is so disturbing. Like, even I described the full plot to my mum and she was like, I wish you hadn't even told me that plot. That's such a horrible story. And it really is. So I don't know why I actually so enjoyed it, but I really did. As I said, that was my first Stephen King, and I can see what the fuss is all about. He is actually a very good writer. He is a very engaging writer. I could really feel the setting and feel really creeped out, even though the book itself actually has a really slow pacing. Like, for so much of the book, nothing is really happening. None of the scary stuff happens until really, really right at the end. And yet, you're so, like, spooked out the whole way through. He's a very unsettling person. But it has made me intrigued to maybe read more of his books. We'll see if I'm brave enough. This one, he says, is the most disturbing one that he's written. It's like so disturbing he didn't even think he should publish it. So I guess if I can cope with that, maybe I can cope with anything that he writes. So yeah, that was my super surprising, most entertaining book of this month. Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I mean, who am I? The other book on this list is a much less surprising one. This one sounded so much more up my alley from the beginning, and that is 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. And I don't have either of these with me, by the way. Pet Sematary is on my desk at work, and 1,000 Ships I gave to my dad because I wanted him to read it as well so we could talk about it. That one I really, really enjoyed, and I really enjoyed calling up my dad and talking to him about it. So my dad always raised me when I was younger on the Greek myths, so I kind of knew all these stories, but it had been so long since I'd heard them that I was pretty rusty, so I did find it a bit confusing, and I kept having to call him to like clarify who the characters were. But it's basically the story of the Trojan War, but from the point of view of all of the women involved. Like, so many different female voices in this, because there are loads of women, there are loads of really interesting female characters in the Iliad and the Odyssey. It's basically covering the events of both of those, but the women are, you don't really get their perspective. They are there to further the plot, to further the men's plot, whereas this book goes back and gives them a voice and gives them a backstory. And the subtitle is This is the Women's War, and I really liked that. You might find it a bit confusing if you don't know the stories at all, because it jumps around in time all the time, so it really helped me kind of having a basic understanding of it. But, you know, my basic understanding was very, very basic at this point. I'd forgotten a lot of it, so don't be put off by it. I read it with my dad on the phone for some points, and also just Googling it. Like, it's really, really easy to find these stories on Wikipedia, so sometimes I just Googled the people's names to find out where they were in the story and what was originally in the story and then what Natalie Haynes had kind of reinterpreted. So if you're willing to do that, it makes it a really, really rewarding experience reading this book, and I loved it. So those are the books that entertained me in March, and now for the movies. I went to see Captain Marvel last week, and I am not a superhero movie person. I have seen like, I could count them on one hand, the number of superhero films I've seen, and even fewer that I have understood at all. So I'm not the target audience for this, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was so much fun, and I think that's probably in a big part because I'm completely in love with Brie Larson. I think she's so talented. She's such an amazing actress. She's gorgeous. She's just, like, amazing to watch on screen. So that played a big part in how much I enjoyed this movie. But I just thought it was really fun, and it's actually inspired me. It's made me want to watch more of the Marvel movies. I will say I had 2 complaints with the movie. Because I'm not a big superhero fantasy person anyway, I like to know exactly how much I'm supposed to be suspending my disbelief. So if you have a superpower, I want to know what the superpower is and where the limits of it are. Because otherwise, you can do anything. Like, it's not interesting storytelling-wise because you're not bound by any constraints. So she gets these powers, and the powers, to me, I won't say exactly what they are in case that counts as spoilers, but they were just so over the top to me that I did kind of roll my eyes. I was like, yeah, okay. If she's ever in trouble and, like, can't get out of a situation, I'm not going to believe that, because I'll be like, but you are so powerful, surely you could just very easily get yourself out of that situation. So that was number 1 complaint. Number 2 complaint, I wish they had stopped being cowards and just made her explicitly gay. I haven't yet watched Rowan's video on this. I saw it, people have sent it to me because I keep telling people in real life how I felt, so I do really need to watch that. I'm not 100% complaining about this. I like that we had a female superhero main character who didn't have to have a love interest at all, but I would also just love to see female love represented on the screen, and I felt like they were so close with that one, and I just wanted them to just make it canon. So that's how I felt about Captain Marvel. Okay, what's next on my list? Music. Okay, what have I been listening to in March? Basically, nothing like super new. I've been listening to Maggie Rogers' album Still on repeat. I'm just completely in love with that album. I was listening to it while I was reading Daisy Jones and the Six. And it's funny because Maggie Rogers' album doesn't really sound anything like the style that Daisy Jones and the Six music is supposed to sound like. There's a Spotify playlist, I talked about that before, for this, where you can go and listen to what the music is supposed to sound like. Maggie Rogers, not on that playlist. But because I was listening to it so much while I read the book, now, every time I listen to Maggie Rogers, I, like, see these characters and feel like I'm reading this book. So that might be part of the reason why I'm still completely so obsessed with that album. I've also been liking Maisie Peters. She's got quite, like, dreamy, gentle music. I've been really enjoying that. Caravan Palace have a new song. I used to be obsessed with Caravan Palace, like 9 years ago. I was really into electro swing. I loved Caravan Palace. I loved The Correspondence. And Caravan Palace now have a new song called Miracle, which I really like, actually. But it has mainly just made me nostalgic for their old music. The Correspondence also had a new album back in November, and I quite like it. I don't love it though, and I used to love their old stuff. But I might listen to it more, and maybe it'll grow on me. I had another film. I forgot. There was another film I was going to talk about, and that is Juliet Naked. I watched this on the plane, and it was so fun. And I hadn't really heard of it before. I haven't heard other people talking about it, but it's really good. So it's got Rose Byrne and Chris O'Dowd. And Chris O'Dowd plays a music blogger who is completely obsessed with this old rock star who had this great album and then kind of vanished from the public view and has never really been seen again. And I've forgotten that rock star's name, but we'll come back to him. So Chris O'Dowd has this music blog all about it, and there are all these forums, and people dissect the songs and just love it. Rose Byrne is his girlfriend, and she's just got to the point where she's so fed up, and she never wants to hear this rock star's name ever again. And she writes a scathing review of the rock star on the blog, and then they break up, and she's like, I'm done with that. And then, lo and behold, who should contact her in response to her scathing review but the rock star, played by Ethan Hawke. And then an unexpected friendship romance blossoms between the two of them. And it's just a really fun film. I really, really enjoyed it. It's so quirky and unique, and I really enjoyed it. Such a fun one to watch on the plane. Shopping. Online shopping. I have been completely taken in by Instagram adverts, which are always serving me up pictures of Astrid and Miu earrings. And so I bought an Astrid and Miu earring. Here it is, in my ear. Can you see it? I've had a few experiences of buying from the Instagram adverts. Some a lot better than others. I bought a lot of Misoma earrings, and some of them great quality. I got this little lightning bolt. I don't know if you can see that, but that one still great, really liking that. But I bought these really pretty little hoops that broke, the stones fell out, and then when I complained, they sent me a replacement, which was very kind of them, but those ones broke too. So I did get a refund. Misoma, great customer service, but I was disappointed that they're not cheap earrings, and they didn't seem to be super good quality. But my Astrid and Miu one is exactly what I wanted, so I may return to them and buy more stuff. I love earrings. I'm obsessed. I haven't really watched any TV this month, so I don't really have any TV shows to talk to you about. What I have done is been to the theatre, so I have a show to tell you about, and that is Waitress. And I really want more people to see this show, because I feel like it's not selling a ton of tickets here. I think it did well in America, it's not doing very well over here. When I went to see it, it was really empty. We were sitting in the right top of the highest seats you can get, and they basically hadn't sold enough tickets, so they closed that whole area and upgraded us, which was great for us, but even then it still wasn't full. So I feel like they're just not selling very many tickets, which is such a shame because it's a really fun show. Firstly, when you walk into the theatre, the whole place smells like pie. I mean, you can't beat that. It's about a waitress who right at the beginning finds out that she's pregnant with her husband's baby, but her husband is a complete dick basically, and their relationship is really bad. And it's about her kind of not putting up with shit anymore and like coming into her own. It's just really fun and feel good. And also really funny. It's got the guy in it. I don't know his name, that actor, but I saw him on stage and I was like, haven't I seen him in movies? And I looked it up afterwards and it is. He's the guy, he's in 30 Rock, which I never really saw, but he's also in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. He's the guy that doesn't know how to have sex with his wife. I'll put a picture of him so you recognise his face. He was really, really funny in this movie. So yeah, I loved it. It was really nice. I would go see it again. I think people should go and smell the pie and enjoy the show because it's actually a really nice one. It's very American, but sometimes that kind of syrupy sweet Americanness is what you need on a Wednesday night, which is when I saw that show. And then finally YouTube. My new favourite YouTuber of the month is Bradley Bakes. So I did a collab video with him over on Book Break. I will link to that one. We made a sticky toffee pudding together and I thought it was a really fun video and a very delicious sticky toffee pudding. So that was really fun. But also I will link to his actual channel. Go check it out. He's so cool. He has this series, well his whole channel is baking. And he bakes these amazing like theatre-inspired cakes and musical-inspired cakes, and it's so cool. But he also has this series called My Harry Potter Kitchen, where he's literally baking his way through the books. So he reads the books, and every time he comes to any mention of food, he then makes that thing and has a recipe for it. So at the moment, he's got up to the trolley on the Hogwarts Express, and he's just made Bertie Bott's Every Flavour beans, and I actually have a video in my watch later queue of him trying the bad tasting ones that he made, and I'm really excited to watch it because wow, they looked disgusting. He had like sardine flavoured ones and stuff. But he's so cool and so talented, so I really recommend that you go and subscribe to him. So that's everything that's been entertaining me in the month of March. Do leave me a comment letting me know what other books and films and music and TV show that you've been loving this month. And of course give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and hit that subscribe button below because I post new videos every Friday. See you next time!